On behalf of the Department of Education, it is my distinct honor and pleasure to welcome you to the official launch of the Program for Education Realignment and Transformation, which we all know as the PERT, a project that reflects our commitment to building a stronger, more inclusive, and more resilient education system for present and future generations. As we navigate an increasingly complex and rapidly changing world, the importance of investing in education cannot be overstated. We all know that education is one of the most important investments we can make in a nation's future. Our ability to compete, innovate, and prosper demands on the quality education we provide to our children and young people today. It therefore demands not only vision, but sustained action. In this regard, I wish to thank the Honorable Prime Minister for facilitating this long-awaited project and for his continued commitment to the advancement of education in St. Lucia. PERT did not arrive in a vacuum. Rather, it is a continuation of a deliberate and strategic process of education reform and development. It builds upon the foundations established through the Education Quality Improvement Project, the EQUIP, which we know recently closed. And this project delivered significant gains for our education sector and positioned us to pursue even greater ambitions. PERT represents the next and very critical phase of that work. This program speaks directly to several of our national priorities. It supports our efforts to modernize educational infrastructure, strengthen institutional capacity, expand opportunities for vulnerable learners, and better prepare students for the demands of a rapidly evolving world. What excites me most about the PERT is the powerful principle at its core, that every St. Lucian child deserves access to a quality, inclusive education, regardless of circumstance, ability, or background. It is a reaffirmation of our belief that every learner has the potential and that the government of St. Lucia is prepared to invest in creating these opportunities and support systems necessary for that potential to be realized.
The Program for Education, Realignment and Transformation, PERT, is a bold and determined commitment by the government of St. Lucia and its development partners to transform the education landscape of our country. St. Lucia education system has expanded access and created opportunity for a generation of learners, yet real challenges remain. Many of our school buildings are over 40 years old, and structural assessment has found some to be unsafe, non-compliant with modern building codes, and ill-suited for 21st century teaching and learning. As a nation highly vulnerable to hurricanes, flooding, and seismic activities, too many of our schools lack the resilience needed to keep children safe and learning through a crisis. We must also close critical gaps in equity and quality, better facilities, and earlier support for students with special education needs, modern labs, and industry standard equipment for our TVET students, and a stronger, better qualified workforce for early childhood education. These challenges are urgent and interconnected. They demand transformative change. PERT is the government's comprehensive response. PERT is an investment of more than $30.4 million US. It's co-financed by the Caribbean Development Bank with a loan of $17.1 million and USD 4 million grant from the GP, or the Global Partnership for Education, administered through CDB, alongside Government of St. Lucia counterpart contribution of over $9.3 million US. The project is implemented over 4 years by the Ministry of Education through a dedicated project coordination unit. It rests on 4 pillars: building and rehabilitating schools for 21st century, equipping labs and classrooms with modern tools, strengthening the systems that identify and support early learners, and investing in the people who educate our children. The cornerstone of PERT is its infrastructure program. A brand new special education needs school will be constructed at Viewfort, a purpose-built, fully equipped facility and a landmark of inclusion for the south of our island. At Suffolk Comprehensive Secondary School, a new classroom block will be built and an administrative section expanded and refurbished. TVET labs at Castries Comprehensive School and Binfield Secondary School, covering food and nutrition, building technology, and auto mechanics, will be rehabilitated and re-equipped with modern standards. Through the GPE climate resilient component, remedial works and retrofitting will be carried out at 7 primary schools: Bexar, Camille Henry Memorial, Canaries, Dennery, Gordon and Walcott Memorial, Soufre, and Viewfort. These schools will receive hurricane-resistant roofs and windows, upgraded drainage, increased water storage, and sewer improvement. All will be designed to serve as emergency disaster shelters for their communities. Alongside this construction, PERT will equip these new and rehabilitated facilities with modern furniture and equipment, and critically with adaptive technology and assistive devices for students with special needs and our youngest learners. But no infrastructure project or no infrastructure truly transforms learning without the system to use it well. PERT will develop and deploy early identification systems across pre-primary, primary, and special education needs schools, a culturally relevant diagnosis framework, and that let our teachers identify students' needs early and act early, so no child falls through the crack. We will also develop and pilot an entrepreneurship program in 7 secondary schools built on existing CVQ and CSEC models, equipping young St. Lucians with practical skills for innovation and enterprise. The single most important factor in student success is the quality of the people who teach, lead, and support learning. As a result, PERT will support the training and professional development of at least 1,200 professionals, including teachers, principals, education officers, and guidance counselors, including degree, diploma, certificate program in early childhood education, advanced training in special education needs, certified TVET instructions, and gender-sensitive training for all educators. By strengthening our educators, we strengthen the capacity of our entire education system to deliver excellence and equity for generations to come. The team charged with delivering PERT, the Project Coordination Unit, was formally constituted on June 1st, 2026, bringing together expertise in coordination, engineering, procurement, education, finance, monitoring and evaluation, and communications. We are guided by a project steering committee, chaired by the Permanent Secretary, and supported throughout by our partners at CDB and GPE. To them and to the Ministry of Education, thank you for your confidence. And to every member of the PCU team, our work has just begun, and we are ready. PERT is ambitious. Multiple construction sites, dozens of procurement processes, hundreds of training programs, and complex coordination across government, consultants, contractors, and development partners. We are committed to delivering it with integrity, transparency, and professionalism. On time, within budget, and to the highest standard. You will receive quarterly progress reports. You will be engaged through consultation, and you will see the results in safer classrooms, in the qualification your teachers earn, and in the futures our students are empowered to build.
I went to school at the time when education was exclusive. Education meant, and when you say that to your friends or your colleagues, it's difficult for them to imagine that 2,000 people write an exam and only 150 will pass. And they use the word pass. Pass means that you got less than 90%. Less than 90% meant failure. And it's very difficult for someone to comprehend that, to understand how you could get 90% in an exam and you failed. That was the reality that I went through. I was lucky I got 91. So being inclusive and allowing every child to have an opportunity to have an education it's a noble idea. Most important is children with special needs, special education. And I say that because I've seen what it means for children to be ostracized, to be put aside, to be treated as less than human because not due to any fault of them, they happen to be differently able. And the very fact that we are making a conscious effort to put emphasis on special education must be applauded, and I give my full support towards it. Also the issue of early childhood. It's my government's policy that early childhood should be universal. And I've tasked the ministry, and I tasked them on several things, but this one I've tasked them that in the next 3 years, every child should be able to get early childhood education free of charge. It's a task that I've given them, and I hold them to it. First of all, the minister and the staff. But I'm very pleased with the Ministry of Education, very pleased with the minister and the staff, but I want to thank them for the work that they are doing for education in St. Lucia. Finally, I heard the program should end in 4 years, and that is where my issue is. I hope the Caribbean Development Bank will ensure that within all the realm of accountability and transparency, that they understand that the program should finish in 4 years, and we want it to finish in 4 years because we have to report to the people who we told it will finish in 4 years. So I'm sure that you'll get all the support, that you can tick all the boxes of your procurement and your requirements, but I hope that that the system does not become so complicated that it will stop the progress of the program. I'm very optimistic, I'm very confident, I'm very pleased, and I wish you all the best.
Round and round, these seasons I've been facing, but this year, your blessings I'm embracing. Hey, healing have to come my way, blessings have to come my way. Winning, we winning, and we here to stay. Is the blessings me say will find me here? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I miss if ever gonna find me here. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Tell them the money gonna find me here. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I miss the blessings gonna find me here. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Tell them me claim it. All of my blessings, me name it. With faith, me I go own it. Nothing shall get home it. Speak life, it is a new day. All things in my past, yeah. Welcome to the new year. Me step out in faith and no fear. Blessings go find me, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I miss if ever gonna find me here. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Money gonna find me here. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I miss the blessings gonna find me here. Oh na 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 na.
St. Lucia has been a partner of GPE for a long time, for 2016, so we're celebrating 10 years. Over those 10 years, most of the program and most of the support has been done from a regional perspective, with more than 40 million US dollars in financing from GPE. And we do believe in those partnerships. Partnership is at the heart of GPE, and we do want to continue working as a region, and it is one of the most integrated regions actually, and there's a strong effort of doing this. But we also believe that each country has a national plan that we would like to support, and this is where this first national program that GPE is supporting comes from. This hasn't come from vacuum. Again, it's thanks to our partners from the Caribbean Development Bank that are co-financing for the larger part the program with GPE as well as the government. This program has a lot of promise. I wanted to say something, you know, just looking at the youth today, we've seen so many skills on display. Teamwork, you know, adaptability, because that's very hard to adapt with the changing circumstances. You rehearse for something and then you ended up with something else. Confidence, and all other skills. And this is where school is not only academic. School is, you learn so many different skills that are essential for your life, for your profession, but also for jobs and for life. And this is where the program starts really early, but actually continues up to secondary. So from the early grades, big focus on ECE, big focus on supporting children with special education needs. And then we continue up to secondary, where there's this innovative program being proposed to integrate technical and vocational, pre-vocational skills in secondary education and build the entrepreneurship skills of the youth. This is very important, and it's a pilot in the region that we hope, you know, to see how it goes and kind of replicate and scale up across the region. So a lot of promise there with this program. GPE works always in partnership, as I was saying, partnerships at several levels. First with our countries. So in the region, we partner with the governments, the ministries of education of those countries to support the national plan and the regional plan in this case. There's going to be an upcoming regional strategy as well that GPE is supporting the OECS Commission, working with the strategy that basically builds on the national strategies and sees how the region as a whole can advance system transformation. We also work with our development partners, so the Caribbean Development Bank, the World Bank, and other, the UNICEF, etc. I'm not going to name everybody, but the Global Partnership for Education kind of aligns and helps working with all the partners and see how our combined effort can maximize and support the countries. We also work with civil society, and we have a fund specific for civil society, and this is something we want to foster more in the region. Last year, the CDB organized a regional symposium focused on Parent and Teachers Association, and we've started seeing more effort in involving civil society in education. This is very important. Parents' engagement is very, very important. So GPE is there to also help teachers. Teachers are the backbone of the education system, so the program itself has a big focus on supporting the teachers where they are and supporting their career development and their professional development. We also support teacher voices in the program, in the dialogue with the ministry and in the journey of system transformation. So this is also part of the partnership. And finally, I'm going to mention the private sector, and this is a growing area where we have started in the region. In Grenada, I was there a few weeks ago. We launched a private sector alliance for education. We brought many private sector in the country that committed to support the government program in education. And GPE basically, through its tool, because we're a partnership and a fund, is able to match financing from the private sector. So just as we match financing from our development partners, particularly in this program, we co-finance, we also match financing from the private sector to encourage private sector to give and contribute to education, particularly not through ad hoc programs, but through the government programs, so that all our impact, when we come all together, when we align this financing and we come all together, we really multiply our impact. It's no longer every dollar is stretched, it becomes $2 and $3 and $4, and we really can advance all together in the same direction.
I bring you greetings from the President and staff of the Caribbean Development Bank, and to say that we are extremely delighted that we are again given an opportunity where we can support St. Lucia and the government of St. Lucia in advancing your national development priorities, in this case for education. Indeed, we know that education is not just a pathway for individual success, it is a powerful catalyst for societal change and transformation. And for us at CDB and for the government here and across the region, education transformation has its core, not simply in the processes that we bring students through, but it is about the students themselves. It is about building out the human capital and the human potential of the region so that we can continue to build a civilization where we can thrive and continue to have the Caribbean as a wonderful place to live, to work, and to succeed. This project, which is funded by the CDB and our partner, the Global Partnership for Education, with the government of St. Lucia, is, I think, the fourth large investment that St. Lucia has invited CDB to provide for education. And it symbolizes almost the evolution of how our education system has evolved. We started in the 1990s by the Basic Education Project, seeking to build out the education infrastructure as the governments moved towards universalizing secondary education. And then we transitioned to EQUIP, which was a very insightful investment looking at some of the policy changes to deal with some of the structural issues we had in education. And so we have supported catalyzing change in the education system from its nascent beginnings in the 1960s, the post-independence era, to a fully developed human development enterprise. This time around, we're pleased that with the CDB funds, the ministry was able to utilize its full multiplier allocation of $4 million in grant resources from the Global Partnership for Education, which is an example of how partners can work together in supporting countries in their development needs. Friends, at CDB we understand that the urgency of this project is predicated on those who it is targeting at the very core of its programming. We've heard through the project coordinator, that this program transcends early childhood education to special needs and on to secondary. It is about ensuring that we focus on the pain points that we need to target in education development across the region. While we have done remarkably well across the region in expanding access to basic education, primary and secondary, in some ways we have also advanced tertiary education and post-secondary. I was pleased to hear Minister about the policy decision to begin to universalize early childhood development, and I assume it's pre-primary. Hopefully we go 0 to 2 as well. And I want to indicate that CDB is quite willing and able to partner with you in making sure that that can be realized. We are investing in post-secondary so that on Thursday we will join you, Minister, in view forward to do the handover of the South Louis Community Campus there in the south. But the imperatives of our day obligates us to address those critical issues and to focus on the key dimensions of the education system that require sustained support, such as investing in technical and vocational education and training, and to mainstream skills development to ensure we have a workforce that meets the employment needs of the economy. I think quite prudently we have recognized that we need to start that sensitization and embracing of TVET predominantly in secondary education, and so we're quite pleased with this project to support the build-out of TVET workshops and skills development in the schools that we have mentioned here today. Early childhood development is another key area, and importantly, special education needs, so that every learner, regardless of the exceptionalities or the circumstances, that they have the opportunity to succeed at learning. But we are also correct to mainstream this investment, focusing on teachers and principals and managers of schools. This program supports the professionalization of teaching and school management. In the past, you recall that we have focused our investments in improving teacher certification. But you know that success in learning is not assured by qualification, but by professional practice, which is instinctively and intentionally done in the classroom every day. We know it is true that it is not so much that a teacher has taught, but that a student has learned. And that fundamentally requires us to focus on the quality of engagement in the classroom, whether it is at 10:35 on a Tuesday morning like now, or at 2 p.m. on a Friday afternoon when we are thinking about the weekend that is coming. Learning, not teaching, is the indicator of success. And that's why we have, in as much as we invest in certification, we constantly engage through, and PS will tell you that over and over again, ensuring that professional practice becomes the focus of what happens in the classroom every day. I keep saying, if we have policies and strategies and system, if it's not happening in the classroom, it is not happening. And therefore, investment has reached 95 meters, but the last 5 meters to cross the line, we're not there yet. So it is fundamentally about how do we empower our teachers and principals to make sure that the learners before them get the best experience, because ultimately it's not just that we have delivered the lesson, but that the results demonstrate learning. And then we need to move from certification to readiness for work. And so I'm glad that is in project. We are quite pleased to support the entrepreneurship program that we rolled out across secondary schools. This is important. We need to give our young people the sensibilities and how to begin to think not as employers for the plantation, in the same way that our education system was configured from the colonial days, but that they themselves can be the innovators who can drive not just work, but industry success, so that we begin to be not only those who are consumers of the ideas of others, but that others likewise could benefit from the intelligence that exists, whether in Vieux Fort or here in Rodney Bay or in Castries. I know we saw the children who were here, the young ones, and you see them thinking and singing and understand. We saw the dancers, and Mohammed, you were right, how they sat and adapted, and that there, when you see a child, we don't see a child, we see the talent that is yet to be unearthed. We see the promise of what that person can be, and we would invest, and I'm sure the minister would say that when he comes here, invest in lifting that talent from the foundation where it lies in the heart and in the brain of those persons, and bringing it out in the light. And so we know that this is an imperative not of tomorrow, but an imperative of now. If we can help our young people to see how they are the movers and shakers of work and life, we give them a promise, as the project coordinator mentioned. And of course, we cannot be fulsome in our investment unless we think about climate resilient schools. We live in a region where, as the season began just 22 days ago, we are looking to the skies and out of the coast of Africa for when our wonderful winds and rains start coming our way. And so we wish to celebrate this moment, but equally to commit ourselves to making sure that we support, Minister, through you and the PS, the work that CDB with you, with our partners, in making sure that this project is implemented. And I know that the project coordinator, I thought he was going to drop the mic after he had spoken. Maybe next time he does that. But we really thank you for expressing the commitment of PIU in getting this through. PS, I must thank you, and through Minister, and I smiled when he said that the PIU was put together on June the 4th. This is June 23rd. And we are here. It's really excellent work so far in how you have come together as a unit to deliver on this promise. And so we really want to commend the PS and Minister and the team for doing that. At CDB, our team stands committed to make sure that we will be side by side working with you, and of course our GPE partners, to make sure that we assist you in that endeavor. And for the next day and a half, we'll spend our time doing a project launch workshop to share with you how you can ensure that, as the Prime Minister has implored us, that in 4 years' time we shall be back to do the project exit workshop, because everything would have gone according to plan. The 1,200 teachers and prisoners would have been trained, and the students are enjoying the enhanced facilities in which they would be placed. Today, as we launch PERT, it signals the government's reaffirmation of its pledge to strengthen and deliver education. And of course, for us at CDB, we stand ready to support the government of St. Lucia in that regard. Minister will be sharing with PS. We have developed a comprehensive program to address mathematics education that we're deploying in St. Vincent with support from GPE. And we would invite you to have us do the same thing for you in St. Lucia in collaboration with the University of the West Indies, and we look forward to sharing that with you. And so, thank you again for inviting CDB to partner with you in this regard. Through these initiatives, the bank envisage that we would have sustained growth, stronger institutions, and enhanced opportunities for the learners who are direct beneficiaries of this program, and by extension, the citizens and residents of the Helen of the West.
No stress, no rush, just natural.
I think everybody knows the athlete in me is not about long talk. It's about action. It's about execution. And it's about ensuring that our main stakeholders, our children, our teachers, are at the forefront of every single day we get up to execute this program. That is what it is all about. So for me, my job is simple. My job is to ensure that in every single step that CDP, CDB, and of course all our stakeholders have all the information that they need way in advance to ensure that this thing flows to a level that we've never seen before. That is my main responsibility. For me as minister, with all the speeches we heard today, there is one thing central that I am so happy to be a part of a team that understands this. We as a government, we as educators, we as administrators, our number one responsibility is to ensure that we give the next generation this one word: opportunity. Whether it is in youth development and sport, whether it is in education, whether it is in teaching through reskilling our teachers, this is about opportunity. Whether it is in early childhood education, that no child is left behind from the earliest onset, whether it is from special education, whether it is TVET education, it is about presenting the next generation, this current generation, future generations, with opportunity. And so for me, as a Minister of Education, I am delighted that this is another step in the right direction to ensure that our young people are given hope, that they are given hope and the dynamics to understand that if they apply themselves, that they could be the next generation in whatever field they choose. I say this to my staff almost every opportunity I get. Parity of esteem in education. Parity in esteem. The notion that a child can understand that being a doctor and a lawyer, or being a plumber or an electrician, is held at the same regard by our society. That being an individual involved in woodwork can land you in a position that can put you at any center of the universe and allow you to succeed. And so we have laid the foundation, and we'll continue to lay the foundation in our education sector and in all sectors of society. Let's work together, let's execute, and let's do it with fervor in a way that has never been done before.